Welcome back to part 3 for my 6th YouTube video on coronavirus. Now I want to switch the focus a little to politics and running a company. And what is the role of a president? President Trump, you've seen, has to a significant degree sidelined Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx. Now, Dr. Fauci testified before the Senate a few weeks ago, and he said something which is really true. Everything he says, I think everything he said so far, I think is true from what I've seen. What he said is, look, I'm a medical doctor, I'm a virologist, I can only give you my advice based on medical science. That's really true. That has nothing to do with how we're going to behave in our society, though. Let me explain. When I was president of this drug company, what I knew was the vice presidents or senior vice presidents each have their own areas of expertise, and they are responsible for their areas of responsibility. Therefore, they will give opinions. They will execute based upon their area, their domain. So, for example, I could have research and development wants to make a production-sized batch of a product that they want to then test and submit to FDA so we can get drug approval. Because that's research and development's responsibility, is to get new drug approvals, on products. Great. So research and development wants to break in to the manufacturing schedule, stop the manufacturing schedule, spend 12 or 18 hours cleaning those machines, then run the research and development batch of this product that we don't have approval on yet on those machines, then take another 24 hours to clean those machines before production can go back into making our regular products on those machines. But then the vice president of operations says, you can't do that. I have a production schedule to meet. I need to have this product made. I'm not going to be able to meet my production schedule on this product if you break into that machine and you take it over for 4 or 5 days. Then sales and marketing says, I need the product now to sell. You can't just break into operations production schedule. I have customers. I'm going to lose the customers. If we can't deliver on time, our competition will deliver on time, and we're going to lose that business forever. Chief Financial Officer says, I know for the long-term good, we need to do research and development, but right now, our cash flow is tight. We do need to make these batches, convert this raw material into final product that we can sell and get the cash in the door. But our research and development says, I know you've all have your issues, but then I'm not going to hit my I'm not going to hit my research and development schedule on this or this product. What do? That's called the president. The president of the company is the one who has to make the decision. The R&D guy has his concerns. The operations guy, his concerns. I said his, could be his, her. I say it generically. The sales guy, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, they're speaking from a scientific and a public health perspective. But they're not taking into account the economy, the social structure, the social stability of our entire country, the future of the country economically, the military stability of the country given its economic health. They're not thinking about what's happening inside homes when people are stuck at home. Some people are not reacting very well to this. There are some bad things happening in families. They're not thinking about any of this. They're thinking about the virus. Okay, that's their job. But the president is the one who needs to make the decision. Now, if President Trump would have said initially, this is crazy, I'm not doing it, I'm not shutting down the country, we're just going to keep going, and then all these people died, the Democrats would have skewered him and said, you didn't listen to the doctors, you're reckless, you're wild, now we have 1 million people dead, or 2 million people dead. Impeach him. They'd impeach him over a whole lot less than that. So President Trump was really in a corner. He had no choice initially. And by flattening the curve, which really has happened, it has allowed the medical system to catch up with the needs of the sick people, the people that are sick. But now that we have flattened the curve, now that we have any more ventilators, now that we have resupplied, now is the time the president has to say, enough, draconian measures, if you don't wear a mask, but everybody back to work. And the truth is, if he would say that, and now what's going to happen is, because so many people are not following the quarantine measures, social distancing measures, I think there's going to be a huge upspike. Again, the Democrats would have jumped on him for that. So the president actually has the best of both worlds now, because it's individual governors who are taking it on themselves to say, go back to work. And then when this uptick occurs, when I say uptick, I think it's going to be a tidal wave, but I don't know. And we're not going to have to wait 3 months to find out. When this uptick occurs, the president will be able to say it's not his fault, because he didn't tell everyone go out without masks, or he didn't open up the doors to have the jailbreak, which is what it looks like now. But the life point I wanted to make was, whether you're the president of a company, or the president of the United States, or if you're a parent, or the head of any other organization, if you're the head, you're going to have competing forces. I used to tell my executive vice president of commercial operations, when I would have several vice presidents, senior vice presidents at each other's throats. They want this, they want that, give me more of this, my budget, I need these sources. I said, the kids are fighting again. And that's what it is. The kids are fighting again. Everybody has their area of responsibility or interest. This child wants more apple juice. That child wants more candy. And that child is jealous of this one. And you have to be the parent, or you have to be the president. And you get paid the big bucks as a president and CEO to weigh all of these factors. Hopefully you're intelligent enough. Hopefully you have enough foresight and judgment to make the right decision. And when I would make these decisions, almost all decisions, I would always have my eyes wide open, looking for new data every step along the way to see when I needed to change course. If new data showed me or showed us that now, no, we shouldn't be doing it this way, should do it that way. You always have to keep your mind open to change according to how data comes in. But understand that president or that CEO at some point has to make a decision. I want to try to run through a few really major concepts, maybe somewhat rapid fire if I can. First, many people will speak about the coronavirus pandemic or epidemic in the United States as being like a forest fire. And the government is planning to use contact tracing, as they say, to stamp out any embers that are still lit. In other words, you use social distancing and quarantine to get that steeply rising level of infections to level off or even start down a little bit in certain areas. And now, as people leave, if you see new areas where it's outbreaking, where there are outbreaks, you're going to go stamp on those embers and put them out through contact tracing, where the government is going to hire tens of thousands of people to trace everyone that person came in contact with when there's a new person gets sick. There are a few points I want to make with this. Contact tracing will not work. It has worked in China because China is a totalitarian communist country where they have in most major cities cameras on almost every spot where people could be. And the cameras are hooked up to computers with artificial intelligence. And they identify everyone's name by facial recognition. And if someone jaywalks, meaning if they cross the street in the middle of the street, not at the corner, the computers will automatically put their face and their name up on billboards, electronic billboards, called the Wall of Shame. And so China, which is a totalitarian country, they can implement total lockdowns and absolute contact tracing. Another country that can do it is Israel. Because when your country of 6.7 million Jews, surrounded by 450 million Muslims, most of whom would like to kill you, you learn to do away with some of your civil rights. Even though Israel is a true democracy, maybe the ultimate democracy, so much that they have chaos at times, but Israel has no problem with Mossad, their secret organization, their intelligence organization, kind of like the FBI here. They have no trouble with Shin Bet, with Shin Bet monitoring phones, monitoring people, which they've done for terrorism, and now they're doing for coronavirus. But in a free country like the United States, where we don't accept the totalitarian controls that a country like China does, and we are not under the threat that a country like Israel is, there's no way that we're going to tolerate those types of intrusions into our privacy. The other thing is, there are not a few embers from the forest fire that's been put out, where those embers have flown and now they have to be stamped out. That's not the case. There are probably hundreds of thousands of embers all around. There's so many. That's the problem with this. That's why this virus cannot be contained. Because there's so many people that carry this virus for so long with no symptoms that by the time they get sick, there's no way you can go back and trace where they had been. But contact tracing does pose a major threat to our society. In 1989 to 1993, in the generic drug industry, there were many companies that were caught cheating. They were committing fraud in their documents against FDA. And FDA formed a group of lawyers who are prosecutors, and they're a branch of FDA that are designated just to go after those who are committing crimes in the generic drug industry. Well, by 1993, 1994, the generic drug industry was completely cleaned up. I'd say there's been an exception here or there, but it's very, very rare. But what happens? You don't fire those prosecutors. You don't fire those lawyers. They are like a wolf pack looking for someone to bite. A lot of years later, in the 2000s, well into the 2000s, late 2000s, we had a drug that we were a generic drug that we were going after, and we were going to break the brand's patent. And we told the brand company, which is what you're supposed to do, that your patent is not valid or it's not going to apply to us. The brand company then sues us. Litigation ensues. The brand company, through the litigation process, was able to get all of our documents related to that drug. Now, FDA had passed. Let me go back. In a tablet, in a tablet of drug, many times most of what's in that tablet is not the drug at all. For example, if it's a 1 milligram drug, the smallest tablet you can really pick up with your fingers is about 80 milligrams to 100 milligrams. So in that 100 milligram tablet, you might have 1 milligram of drug and 99 milligrams of other stuff. I'm not going to go into all the pharmaceutical science. I hope to do that in another video. So a generic drug company has to figure out how to mix and what to mix in terms of different inactive ingredients with the drug, so the drug will release its chemical into the bloodstream up over time is the same rate as the branded product does. And many times you'll try 1 or 2 formulations of that drug generically, and you'll test it in people, and you don't match the brand. So then you make a new formulation based on science, hoping to match the brand. So with this drug, we had submitted to FDA the formulation that we had made that passed studies in people that we were trying to get the approval for. But unfortunately for us, the FDA had passed a law saying, even though you're not trying to get drug approval on those old formulations, you have to submit all of them anyway, along with the studies you did in humans that failed. And by strict clerical error, somebody in our research and development department just missed sending one of those studies on a failed formulation that we were not trying to get drug approval for. Unfortunately, that person failed to submit it to FDA.